Okay, so welcome to another episode of Ear to the Streets podcast with myself, T Dot. Today I'm joined by a very talented lady, singer-songwriter. Do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about who you are?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm Kinnoha. I'm an artist. I'm based in South London. The kind of music that I make is mostly electronic, a bit of pop, a bit of R&B, and I'm kind of moving in a new direction right now where I'm focusing on a disco and a funk side of things. So that's me. And in terms of how I started off, like a lot of singers, I thought I needed a band. So when I was younger, I was in a few different bands, mostly doing indie stuff, a bit of metal, which is a world away from the kind of stuff I make now. But I do feel like as artists, we go through transitions, we evolve and we learn and we grow. So it's all normal. And then from the bands, I moved on to working with rappers who'd heard me at gigs and asked me to jump on their songs and sing like a hook for their choruses. And I got into the electronic side of things through that and just met producers, and then thought after a while, really like this kind of music, want to get more into it, and just started exploring really.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think so. Because you was in bands for quite a while, and I'm assuming that was totally different to the stuff like you said that you're working on now.
Yeah.
So what would the band? So when you was in a band, what time are we talking? Like 18, 19?
No, much younger than that. I think I
was
in my first band when I was 12.
Wow, okay.
Because I grew up outside of London, and there was this music. It was this music program basically you could audition for, and they would place you in bands, and they would give you mentors and guides, and then put on shows around town. So that was quite helpful. But the kind of music that we're making was, I'd just call it some soft rock, some indie, and a bit of metal. So yeah, totally different. We had guitars. I played a bit of bass, drums. Maybe you'd get a keyboard player, but yeah, you just get lots of different instruments involved as well. And it was mostly focusing on the live sound rather than how can we produce a record for the radio, for instance, or for streaming, because even back then streaming just wasn't a thing. This was like 2008, 2009. So yeah, the musical world was so different then.
Yeah, and I suppose that move. So where was you before you moved to London? Where was you?
So I've lived in a couple of different places. I was in Brighton for a while before London, and then I grew up in Swindon, so around by Bristol, the southwest area.
So obviously moving to London, like your eyes must have just opened to like a whole new world of like doors was just opening everywhere, because that's London's like that. There's so many opportunities to just connect with different artists and from different genres, different backgrounds and all that kind of stuff as well. So that must have been like an eye-opener a little bit from going from being in a band, and then obviously like you said, there's loads of opportunities to just be collaborating with rappers or other singers and things like that. So what was that like for you in terms of going to London, and then obviously you're just in the hub of the music world in the UK?
It wasn't quite as harsh a transition as it sounds, because I had that little time in Brighton in between. So I almost took like a baby step into the wider world, I feel. And I met, as you said, I met like rappers and producers around Brighton. But then when I moved to London, you're right, there is kind of a stark contrast in that pre-COVID there was so many open mics, there was so many opportunities to perform. I feel like there's a lot more nowadays, there's a lot more networking groups. There's people always inviting me to stuff on Clubhouse. We've got there's so many opportunities that people who are based in London, I do feel kind of get together a bit more than people elsewhere. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's kind of a mindset of people that weren't born here that I've met in music are just kind of like, most of us are kind of fought to be in London. You know, we've done our best to study hard, to get jobs, to afford to live here, because this is a tough city to live in. So it's just kind of that like grind mentality, I think.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on that a little bit because there was a tweet that you put out. I think it was a couple of weeks. I think it was last week or the week before, and I agreed with it as well, because I'm like paraphrasing, so I might have got some of this wrong, but basically you were saying that for an unsigned artist to continue to put out the level of music that you put out, or any artist at your kind of level that you're doing it, with no sort of backing from like labels or nothing like that, to then have to continue to do that whilst you're like juggling other stuff as well. It's like a hot potato all the time. You're just constantly juggling everything. Right. So how do you kind of cope with that? Knowing, obviously, like you just said, London's like one of the toughest cities to live in the UK, due to like just the inflation of everything in London. Like even getting like a chocolate bar is like ridiculously expensive in London. But how do you cope with all of that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, you're right, it's just insane. You can't compete with people who are signed to major labels, people who just, for whatever reason, they just have a lot of money to throw into music. You can't compete with that, and I don't think there's any point in, like, there's no point in an unsigned or emerging artist trying to compete with, like, the Ariana Grandes or the Beyoncés. It's so unrealistic, and so I think you need to kind of be real with yourself and just realise that your goals, they might be huge, but you need to take it one step at a time. And you can't compare yourself to others because you just don't know. You might think, oh, I've seen an artist at a gig and now I see that they're blowing up, they're all over the radio, this, that and the other, but you don't know. They might have a backer, they might have an investor, they might be signed to a label but just not talking about it. So I think you can't compare yourself to other people. And yeah, in terms of living in a city and working, I think everybody actually does have a job, whether it's a side job, a part-time job.
I agree.
I don't think many people at all, even people I've met that you'd think, oh, they've got millions of streams, literally millions of streams, they've still got full-time jobs.
Yeah.
I think, what's his name, Plastician?
Yeah.
He's a big DJ, right? And I think he still works. He still has
especially this year as well. Gigs. This year he's had to, probably because of the fact there's been nothing going on.
Yeah, and the fact that you can't even gig right now. So even if you were before a full-time gigging artist, you've probably had to pick up some kind of side gig just to live.
Yeah, no, it's true. I agree. I think a lot of artists, and I don't know whether it's more of like a shame thing. They don't want to admit it. You know, they want to be seen as this artist that is I don't know, doing really well, 1 million streams or whatever. But I don't think there's no shame in saying this is how I pay for my music. This is how you get to see the mix down, the quality of the mix down being really well, the visuals being really well, the artwork being all of that costs so much money. And I think from a listener's point of view, all they see is something on Spotify. They don't actually see all the work that goes into getting it to that point. There's so much steps to it as well.
Yeah, and I don't think it's not really the audience's fault. They probably just think, oh, they've got a mic at home, they're recording their laptop, and then they upload it to Spotify. But you're right, there's so much behind the scenes that I was trying to work out. And I think I even put on that tweet that you're mentioning, I was like, it costs probably approximately about $1,000 per single if you're doing all the right thing, ticking all the boxes. And by that I mean paying for your beats if you don't produce yourself, paying for your mixing, mastering, getting your promotion out there, doing a video. It's not for free. Like, no one does anything for free, and they shouldn't. No. So it's got to come from somewhere, and we know it doesn't come from streaming. So you're right, people shouldn't be ashamed. And I think actually, like, it's so good to see pressure being applied to those streaming platforms.
Yeah, 100%. Because I was speaking about this with someone on the podcast a few weeks ago, and I was saying that, like, streaming is such a poor way to.
You can't live off streaming. No one could.
No, and I think you'd have to literally, every song you put out would have to be hitting 100 million streams, and that's not me being stupid. That is just literally even a million streams isn't enough for you to sort of kick back and go, right, that's my job done. It's not. I think 1 million streams will probably get you about £5,000, something like that. Yeah, just under.
I'd had a chat with somebody. We worked out that to get a minimum wage salary, which I think, or even I think their national average salary, so which I think at the time was like 27 grand. We were like, how many streams would you have to pull in to get just the average salary? Not even anything incredible, but that was something like 2 or 3 million a month. And
It's
I mean,
ridiculous. Like it's
it's insane. So that's why I put out that thing saying, how are people doing this? Because I'm only just able to do it with a full-time job.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, like myself as well, we're all in that same boat where we're just juggling so many things. And it is, I mean, I've always tried to keep a lot of things in-house, and that's down to like artwork, and I produce, so all that kind of stuff I do myself. But even then, it's still hard. You still have to have the equipment, you still have to have a decent
You have to have the
monitors and
the resources,
mics. Yeah,
right? And
the time as well.
Yeah.
Literally the time. The time is the biggest thing, because if you're working full time, let's say you do 37 hours a week, that's just what everyone normally does if you're full time.
Yeah.
That's pretty much most of your day gone. Your whole week's gone on just work. That's without doing anything. So I think a lot of people forget that as well. But at the same time, you seem to be juggling okay at the moment.
I don't know.
New single out today.
I outsource a lot of stuff where I just feel I don't have the time to learn things, and I would rather, I'd rather pay somebody who has the skills already to do things properly. I think I've got to that stage where I'm like, okay, I've got to put my money where my mouth is, and I am self-funded, and if that's going to be the case, I've got to do things. I don't want to do it half-assed, basically. I don't want to put out something where I look back and go, oh, I wish that I'd like kind of upgraded the mix on that, or I wish I'd got, I don't know, a better video or something. But I'm actually really, really happy with all of the stuff that I've come out with. Probably in the last 6 months, I think I've had that mindset of change of kind of this is it. And I think that's just me getting older and realising that this industry, especially for women, is quite ageist, and I can't be 50, 60 and like twirling around on a stage. So I feel like, I don't know, unless you're like Madonna or somebody, but I feel at my level, I'm kind of like, there is kind of a ticking clock in my head. So I'm like, okay, right, get to it.
Yeah, it's true. It shouldn't be true, but it is to an extent. It's crazy. But I wanted to talk about Unproblematic, because I think that was the first. I went back and watched the visuals for that as well, which was quite good. But I just wanted for the listeners, if you could tell us like what was the concept and the context behind the song, if you can.
Sure, yeah. So Unproblematic is a song I put out end of last year with a rapper called Madman State. He's West London based, very talented guy, great lyricist, and we met at a gig summer 2019. I was just performing, his mates were performing. I went up to them afterwards, was like, really good performers, met all their group, and we just connected over socials, and I saw his stuff. I was like, man, he's really talented. I wonder if he'd be up for a collab, because my thing used to be collabs. I collaborated with everybody I could, just to kind of soak up everybody's knowledge, connect with people. Also being quite new to London a few years ago, I just didn't know enough people. So my thing was, I want to just collab with as many people as I can. So I asked him if he'd be down for that, and he was. We met up, when was it? I guess it took us kind of a full year to bring the song out, and mostly down to the pandemic.
Yeah.
But when we met, we just had this chat about what kind of song do you want to put out, and he was saying that his songs he'd put out were quite angsty and aggressive, and he wanted to show his softer side. And I said, for me, I'd felt a lot of my songs were quite sad, and I wanted to show my like happier side, more positive side. So for us, it was, okay, how can we show another side of ourselves and blend our sounds? So that's kind of how that song came together. Yeah, no, it's a good song as well. And I just wanted to say, because you've had quite a lot of sort of, when we were talking about like the marketing side of things and things like that, but you've had some good sort of feedback from like BBC Introducing and Hoxton Radio and Pulse 88, all those kind of, promotion. Any promotion is good promotion, but they're like really good ones to have as well. But I think, like before we started recording, I was saying the first song I listened to of yours was Lemons, and one of the reasons why it attracted me, for two things: the artwork, because I think artwork's key. I think that's something that just draws people's attention to stuff. But the fact that there was Remain Dixon is
the collaboration on that one. Just
Yeah.
talk us through that as well, because that's what caught me as well. The fact that it was two females on there.
Yeah, that is something that I'm really, really proud of. I'm really happy that we could pull off. So yeah, I'm glad the artwork attracted your attention. So one of my best friends does all my artwork, and
Right.
she's really talented. So the way that the collab came about with Romain was that we'd met. I'm kind of glad that all these collabs have come about relatively organically. So Romain and I met years ago, probably like 3-4 years ago, at a BBC Sounds event. I think she came up to me and my friend and just started talking to us. Like I was like, wow, who's this lady with all this confidence? But yeah, she's really friendly, really nice, and I'd listened to her music and I loved her voice. And I was in my collab stages and I was thinking, I've never collabed with women. I've collabed with men, I've collabed with non-binary people, but I haven't ever collabed with another woman. So yeah, I thought about messaging her and I was saying, I love your R&B sound, love like your, because she put out a song last year called Vibe that has done
Right.
hugely well and was all over the radio. Every time I turned the radio on, I could hear it. So I was like, I really love Vibe. And then I think she said something along the lines of, oh, love what you've been putting out, be good to work together. And I was like, well, I'm going to take you up on that. Yeah, let's do something. So I shared with her something I've been working on, which I started writing when the pandemic hit. And basically around when bad stuff happens, you just got to make the most and make the best of a bad situation. And I got the beat from a producer I've known for a while who's based in the States. And she really liked the beat, even though I thought it was quite simple, but that's what left space for her to do her magic and give us those beautiful R&B runs. So yeah, she was down and she helped me finish writing it, and we went to studio, recorded together, got it done. I think we got it done in like an hour and a half.
Wow,
It was
okay.
just one of those really
Just
smooth
clicked.
processes. Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of like your writing process, and obviously with like lockdown, COVID, has that hampered that, like in terms of like your writing, and how, like, do you write just for the sake of writing, if that makes sense, or do you have to hear the beat and then you start penning down, or how's your process? How does it work?
Yeah, you know, with the lockdown, I think a lot of people have felt that pressure to be even more productive. Like, oh, I've got all this free time, I better write thousands of songs. But no, I haven't felt like it's any easier or even any harder. But I think for the process for me, I just have to hear the right sound, and then I can start humming, get a melody going. And I usually start with a melody, to be honest, and I just kind of feel out the song and feel how does it make me feel emotionally? What kind of mental state does it put me in? Is it making me feel happy, sad, angry, romantic, whatever it is? And then I think I can usually apply an experience I've had within the last few years to it, because then it feels more real. You can kind of bring the sound to life, create the song, start writing almost like a mini story within the song. And then one thing that's really key for me is that I like to bring in a lot of senses. So your sense of taste, your sense of sight, so bringing different colors, kind of just make it really, really come to life for the listener, so that they can really get a picture of what you're singing about.
Yeah, and I think that's key for like any artist, just to paint that picture for the listeners. So they almost, and I feel like a lot of your music, it is relatable. It's something that people go through or they've experienced throughout their life as well. So I think that's really key, that it's that level of connectivity between yourself as an artist and from a listener's perspective as well. That's so key.
Definitely.
You know, especially with COVID, there's no live music, which I feel like is another level of, you know, like that connecting with each other, that engagement. But yeah, I think you're right. I think, you know, there's no real reason to write 1,000 songs just because you've got 10 hours just of free time. You know, what do they say? Quantity over quality over quantity.
Yeah, quality, definitely. I
So,
agree
you
with
know,
that statement.
Yeah. I read up about you that you used to be on, I think you might still be a brand ambassador for was it Almighty Lifestyle?
So Almighty, I've worked with, a couple times.
Yep.
It's a clothing brand, and so I've done a few photo shoots for them, helped promote their clothing. I've done a few bits with Almighty.
Yeah, that's cool, because I think that's a good thing, like you said as well. There's obviously like a bit of a time limit on I don't think just on females, I think on a lot of people. I think even some, like if you're a rapper, you can't really be talking about certain things you were talking about when you're 21 at the age of like 30, right. 40.
Yeah, because it starts to look really cheesy, right? Like even I'm thinking about like Wiley now. People are like, well, he's like washed out basically. Yeah. Like he's had his time. It's time to move along. But it's strange because music is a lifelong passion for people. It doesn't just evaporate at 45 or whatever. It's so I'm just thinking for us, like when we're older, we're still going to love music, but how can I still have music in my life and make music but without making myself cringe?
I think it's about that sort of like growth as an artist though as well. I think talking from like a hip hop sort of rapper perspective, I think there's growth in certain people that I listen to, and I'm aware of their growth because I've listened to their stuff from 2001 and to the stuff they're putting out now. I'm just the way that the whole thing is structured in terms of the music, in terms of the content, what they're talking about, it's all different now. And I think that is such a key thing as well in any art. It's not just in hip hop and sort of that kind of world. I feel like it makes sense for any artist to always try and develop whatever they're trying to do. But yeah, I think you're right. I think there's always going to be room for music in everyone's life. I don't think you can switch off at 50 and that's it. You don't like music anymore. I'm going to be listening to music to the day that I'm not here. So I wanted to talk again quickly, if we can, about your latest single, Stockholm Syndrome, which is out today.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's weird because when we record these, obviously it's out today, but it will have been out a week when this comes out. So it's out today, but it's been out a week. But just tell us a bit about that and the story behind Stockholm Syndrome as well. Sure.
Yeah. So Stockholm Syndrome is out today, but will have been out a week when people hear this. It's an interesting one. So musically, it's a brand new direction for me, and it's a place I feel really happy to be at musically, because I've collaborated with lots of people over the years. As I said, I've transitioned and evolved and moved around in genres, and now I'm at a place where I feel I found the sound that fits me. And so this is what I describe as a kind of new disco feel. I've had people message me already, which is really lovely, telling me they like the song. It reminded them of Dua Lipa, and kind of like Kylie, but a bit more, with a bit more feist, basically. So it's quite a sassy song, I'd say. It's quite a rude song. I wouldn't put it on in front of like your grandma. It's a bit explicit in the chorus, but that's fine. I wanted to make a song that it was just basically for me, and if anyone else enjoys it, that's great. But so the song is kind of about, it's a true story as well. It's about finding out your lover or your partner or whatever has been having an affair behind your back with their ex. And
right, okay.
So it's a deep thing, and it's about kind of that visceral reaction to finding out that situation and thinking like, wow, you did that. Okay, fine, have it your way. And just like, I can't really explain it without getting too rude, but it's just that gut reaction. And it's the message of the song really is to not take rubbish that people throw away. And as soon as you realize something's up, don't second guess yourself, because 99% of the time your gut will be right on things. Right. I think if you can make like a a measured guess on the situation, and people know what is and isn't right. And so yeah, for me that song is just it's really strange because I wrote that song to give myself closure on a situation. And now it's out. I feel like I've put that entire situation to bed now.
Yeah, sometimes you need that as an artist as well.
You do, yeah. I feel like there's a lot of artists that do that, especially in the pop world. A lot of people write breakup albums or songs about exes or whatever, and it's just very cathartic. So, for instance, with songs like Unproblematic and Lemons, I loved writing them, of course, but they weren't as close to the bone as a song like this is.
Yeah, no, it's a really good song.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's out now, obviously, so we'll put links in the description to where you can hear that and all the other music that you've got out as well. But what have you got coming up next for us as well? I hate asking that question because you literally just gave us something today, but
no, it's cool. Yeah. This is the thing, as an artist, you know this as well. You've got to just keep going and keep. Yeah. You've 100%. Always got to have something in your back pocket as well, because as soon as you put something out, you're on to the next thing. We've maybe 2 or 3 projects ahead, which is really weird because by the time something's out, you're like, well, I worked on that. I made that 6 months ago, a year ago. So it's weird because then you talk about it, but it feels so old. But what I'm working on right now is an EP for the summer. And it's going to be called Plant Seeds for Tomorrow's Sun. It's going to be a multi-track EP, going along the same disco funk sounds, but a bit more chilled, mellow, upbeat, less sweary than Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
We like a bit of that though as well. I think it mixes things up every now and again. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully in the summer we can get that. Do you reckon there'll be any visuals as well with that?
Yeah, hopefully. I'd really like to get a couple more videos done.
Yeah, because the Unproblematic one was really well put together. It was well directed.
Yeah, I absolutely love Gareth Kay. He's the director for that video. He's a dream to work with. Yeah, legend. Yeah,
it was really well put together. But yeah, looking forward to that. And obviously Stockholm Syndrome's out now.
It is, yes.
Yeah, so everyone listen to that, stream it. Let's try and get, how many streams did you say we needed a month?
Oh my God, millions.
We need about 25 million streams, I think.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
A
so
cool
let's
25 mil would be great, please.
Let's just make it 20 for now, and then we'll try and get the other 5. But no, listen, honestly, go and listen to Stockholm Syndrome and all the other music that's available out there as well. And as I said, we'll put links in the description so everyone can find that. But yeah, thank you for coming on, and I appreciate you taking the time out.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been really nice to talk, and just talk a bit about music and the industry, and because it gets crazy, and I think it's just healthy to talk about it.
100, especially in these times as well. Like, people need to talk and not just everyone's sat in their houses or meant to be sat in their houses. So yeah, it's good to talk to people all the time, and we'll always push good music on here anyway. So yeah, keep it coming.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Cheers.